Multiculturalism, implementation in the classroom. America is a very diverse country that is constantly growing in size and culture. According to research, the ethnic minority population in the United States in 2007 reached 102.5 million. As a result, classrooms are highly affected by these changes in the fact that there are many different individuals in a single classroom. As a teacher, it is important to create lessons with diversity in mind. Educators cannot teach as they did 20 years ago because the population has changed drastically. In the past, classrooms were taught one specific way, not taking into consideration the differences among students. It is important for teachers to learn about the cultures of their students so that they can create effective practices where every child can learn in the classroom. This can be achieved through a multicultural education. What is multicultural education? According to the Glossary of Education Reform, multicultural education refers to any form of education or teaching that incorporates the histories, texts, values, beliefs, and perspectives of people from different cultural backgrounds. Through this type of education, every student can have the opportunity to learn. What is equity pedagogy and why is it important? Banks and Banks define equity pedagogy as teaching strategies in classroom environments that help students from diverse racial, ethnic, and cultural groups attain a knowledge, skills, and attitudes needed to function effectively within and help create and perpetuate a just, humane, and democratic society. The goal of equity pedagogy is making sure that every student can learn and apply their learnings to become better people or citizens. Equity pedagogy is student-focused and incorporates real-life problems that students can relate to. The main question that will be discussed today is, can multicultural education and culturally relevant pedagogy be used to increase interest in social studies? Students of different cultures come from different experiences and traditions, resulting in different interpretations and values. According to BISTA, current literature shows that Asian students come from cultures where great values are usually placed on spending time with friends, but cultural barriers can hinder Asian students from developing intercultural friendships in international contexts. When students cannot make connections or they feel uncomfortable in their environment, the students are not experiencing the best education that they possibly can. For a teacher to be able to implement a multicultural education, the students need to be engaged in their learning through connections. Multicultural education would be most effective if taught using developmentally and culturally appropriate individualized multicultural thematic units that cover subjects across the curriculum. For students to learn the content that is being taught, it must be appropriate. The teacher's goal should be for the students to be in the zone of proximal development and reach disequilibrium and return to equilibrium. This can only be achieved if the content that is being presented is developmentally and culturally appropriate. To help facilitate cultural appropriateness, the teacher can implement cooperative learning. Bloss says to use active learning techniques such as pair and share to encourage students to talk to someone that they don't know well. Students may open up about previous educational experiences. Cooperative learning can help establish community throughout the classroom as students work together and learn about cultural differences as well as new content. Cooperative learning is an excellent way to facilitate student learning. Text integration is also a very beneficial strategy to implement in the classroom. It is important to use text in the classroom that is not stereotypical and that can engage the students in learning new stories. There are many sources that a teacher can look at to find multicultural text to include in the classroom. How I Became a Ghost by Tingle is an example of a children's book that would integrate culture into the classroom. This story is told from the point of view of a Native American child. He explains his experiences and the treatment of his people by the white settlers. Because the story is told from a child's perspective, children can more easily relate to how the child must have felt seeing his loved ones forced from their homes and dying. This story is for older children. However, it can be very important in explaining the historical significance of how things were in the past and how things are now. Children can make connections with the story and gain a deeper understanding and appreciation of history. Indian Shoes by Smith also discusses the Native American culture. It consists of multiple short stories for each chapter. Each chapter discusses the adventures of a Native American boy and his grandfather. These adventures are something that a normal white child would do. However, it also integrates Native American cultural practices. This story would be a great example on stereotypes of different cultures. Although this boy is Native American, he does regular activities like any other American child. This text would be a great way for the teachers to talk about what stereotypes are and how they would be created throughout history. Another children's book is Crouching Tiger by Colmstein. This story is about a young boy who does not quite appreciate his heritage. When his Chinese grandfather comes for a visit and calls him by his Chinese name, the boy becomes upset. He seems to be ashamed of his Chinese name. However, he is excited that his grandfather is going to show him how to do Tai Chi. He becomes disappointed when he learns that it's not as cool as he imagined it to be. Through this children's book, there are many lessons such as appreciation for one's culture and the history. The teacher would be able to explain that everyone is different and that those differences make everyone unique. These strategies are important for a multicultural education. However, a multicultural education is not quite as simple as integrating cultural information into the curriculum. As a teacher, it is important for students to be able to understand and apply the information that they are learning so that they can use it and expand on their schema. When creating a unit on Native Americans, the teacher can talk about different tribes of Native Americans and expand on the fact that even Native American tribes were different from one another. The unit could also include the history of Native Americans and how they ended up where they are. With that discussion, the brutality of the treatment of the Native Americans could be explained and the Trail of Tears discussed. This would be a great time to integrate the book, How I Became a Ghost. The students could make a personal connection and really grasp a personal understanding, making them more engaged in learning social studies. Another way to incorporate diverse cultures into the curriculum would be to include famous people who are of diverse cultures. For example, during Black History Month, the teacher could do a lesson on Martin Luther King Jr. and teach on his role in history. By talking about a real person, the students will be able to make connections with the lesson. The teacher could then have an engaging activity where the students had to collaborate and do research on a famous African American in history. Hands-on activities and working with peers would help get the students excited about learning history. It is extremely important for teachers to have equity pedagogy along with a multicultural classroom. By providing a fair chance at education and breaking down barriers in the classroom, students will be able to learn and expand upon their knowledge. When the students feel comfortable in the classroom, they will be more willing to learn. This is extremely important when teaching social studies because many students cannot connect to the people of different time periods and cultures. By educating the children in different cultures, they will learn to appreciate and explore different cultures. As a result, creating a more enjoyable learning experience.